I'm gonna snag a little water while I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Well, we are currently live. Go ahead. I'll do the intro. Grab some water.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome. This is Meet the Masters with Master Watson. I'm joined today with Master Patrick Marsch. He's getting a quick drink of water. I called him right as he was getting up. Hope you're doing great today. Happy or good afternoon or good morning wherever you are. It's always cool to talk to everyone around the world. I talked to Master Amarim last week. We were seven hours difference, so that was pretty wild. There he is. Hello, sir.
Good after morning.
Good after morning. We gotta make sure you're nice and hydrated.
Yeah.
Do you teach tonight?
What day is today?
Today is
Wednesday. No, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. How's the teaching going? We were just talking about it offline. Are you doing a mix of? Are you still doing Zoom? Or are you just doing the outside? Or
Doing a mix of both. It's really California is difficult because they keep changing the rules. Seems like on a weekly basis. They just came out with a new rule that the lockdown level is dependent on the percentage of occupancy of ICUs. Doesn't have anything. I mean, COVID is probably only 20% of the ICUs, but they said, oh, we have to plan for maximum capacity. So they closed down just all the gyms, all the schools, dance, yoga, hair salons, barbershops, and restaurants. So they're even challenging outdoor dining. So for a karate school, we did everything, get all, a certain percentage occupancy. Then they said 0, then 20%, and then none, and went back to 20%. So it's challenging for the teachers. We'll teach anywhere, but for the parents trying to coordinate where they're going to bring the kids. But luckily we've had good weather, so we're able to train outside. So we do a mix of Zoom because it gets a little dark. It gets dark early now, so that's when the Zoom classes start.
how have the students been with all the changes over this way? They've been pretty easygoing, resilient. Some people are kind of reaching their wits in, but how are they doing over in California?
A lot of it is dependent on the parents. Some of the parents they won't let their kids come to an outdoor class.
Right.
They're really afraid. So those ones, it's hard to keep the kids really motivated on Zoom. They just they zone out a little bit, and then they find excuses. Oh, I can't come to class tonight because something. And so you probably have about 50% that you really have to work hard on keeping them motivated. And the other 50%, they just go with the flow. Whatever you want to say, sure, we'll go for it.
You have any Zoom teaching tips for us?
Keep it short, right? And keep it active. No, limit your amount of talking and keep your activity high energy. It's actually, some of them are getting in pretty good shape because they're personal attention. And when you lose your train of thought, you say, let's do 50 push-ups. Well, I remember what I was going to do next.
That's right. Yeah, that's funny. When I was doing it on we have a team that's been teaching our Zoom classes. I'll jump in sometimes. And yeah, you go to things, it's like, all right, let's do some squat kicks. All right, let's do some jump kicks in place. Let's do some burpees.
Yeah, exactly.
We get there too in the regular classes as well, where can't spar, can't really do one steps with a partner, so
yeah,
you got to fill those gaps in somehow.
Exactly, something to keep their blood flowing.
Yes, got to keep the sedentary.
Yeah, it's true.
In their house, got to keep them active.
True.
So when you're teaching, is it you? Do you teach with your wife at all, or do you guys take turns?
Yes, because my wife's job usually took her out of town at least every other week. Her office is in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
So they've been locked down since February, so she has not traveled there. So it's offered her a lot more time to help teach and train. So we work with Master Purnell at Allied Gardens Tong Soo Do. That's a school of myself and Master Purnell and Claire. And so we haven't had to alternate that much in teaching because of the class sizes smaller, but we jump in. He's actually going to go in and get a new hip this month, so we're going to have to step in a lot more until he gets mobile again.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can name quite a few guys that have put in the time that he has that have hips replaced.
Yeah, he's been putting it off, but he's decided to go for it. So
when he's sidelined, maybe I can get him in for an interview. I sent him a couple of messages over the summer, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And then life.
he certainly have the time.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, you can tell him that it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, I know he watches all your interviews. He goes through them all. He really enjoys them. So
awesome. Got a couple people checking in. Got Natalie and Lindsay from Great Britain. Master Marco from Sweden. Hello.
Yeah.
Got Master Sharp says bald is beautiful.
I shaved this just for him.
Nice. I'm getting there. I've still got a little bit on the top, but. And Yoshioda says hi from Region 5.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. So it was interesting reading your story. You sent me some notes. So let's start back as far as martial arts. How did you get interested in the martial arts, and how did the opportunity to get started in the martial arts present itself to you?
Like I said, I went to school on the West Coast to college in 72. My first week there, I got into a little bit of a discussion with a 250-pound black belt from Washington, D.C. And I had never heard of martial arts. I think the TV show Kung Fu was just presenting itself, and I didn't know what that was and never heard of it. Well, this guy, he hit me with a spinning wheel kick, and he's a big guy, and he clocked me, and I didn't see it coming. I never saw anything like that. So once my eyes stopped twirling, I got a hold of him and I drove him to the ground. And he was fascinated with that because he said, I've never been taken to the ground before. And I said, well, I've never been kicked by a fat guy before either. So it was the start of a great relationship. He was an old school Jun-Ri martial artist, fresh black belt. So we started a club there, and that's kind of where I got my whole teaching style and attitude towards martial arts. It was training just for the love of training. We weren't really affiliated with anybody because he wasn't an official Jun-Ri instructor. They were on the East Coast. So we just he and I formed this club and had pretty active group, about 30, 40 active students all the time, trained hard. We would go to the local tournaments. We attracted a lot of people from outside of the school because it was a club, it was free. So we had a lot of martial artists from various disciplines would come in and train with us, and we go to their schools and train as well. It was really a great time to be young and fight. The rules were a little relaxed back then, so it was in open tournaments. There was a lot of contact, so it was really fun.
So when you went to those open tournaments, was it forms as well, or just sparring, or
just fighting?
Just fighting.
Just fighting, yeah. And you weren't disqualified for knocking somebody out, so it was great.
And did you knock a person or two out?
Well, in LA, you had the big schools. And when they had the big tournaments, the Beverly Hills tournament or the Long Beach Open, they had pretty much determined who was going to win that tournament. They seeded everybody. So you were never going to get up into the top tier. So you just tried to knock as many people out as you could before you got beat. I mean, it's stupid, but it made sense when you're 20.
Yeah, I was 21 when I started, and that's basically what I just wanted to fight.
Yeah, that was it. That was all it was.
I, in my head, I'm thinking like Karate Kid. You got the Cobra Kai, and then you got you guys coming in. I was like, who are these guys? And then you beat a couple guys, and you get noticed.
Yeah, that was the problem. Is they'd spot you the next time. It's like, no, it wasn't me. It was another guy.
That's right. It sounds like that environment of the college and going to different places and training with different guys kind of sparked your uh, interest in cross training and getting into different styles. What other stuff did you get a chance to train in while you were there?
Yeah, it was Kempo was pretty popular then. You had Ed Parker School, which was pretty near the university, and then you had the Urquidez Brothers School up in the valley, and so Kempo was pretty popular. There was a couple of other ones that we would go train in, and I would train it also. They were kind of really I don't know if exotic's the right word. Some Japanese styles that were kind of really different. So when I started the program at UCSD, University of California, San Diego in '83, there was then about 20 different instructors of all different martial arts. And we kind of had this agreement that focus on your students, but if somebody would like to go over and try your class out, don't get bummed out about it. So I encouraged my senior students when they got a good grounding in Tang Soo Do, to go try something else, not the same. Don't go do Shotokan or Taekwondo. It's too similar. Go try something else, and just learn some stuff, and then bring it back into the class and show us what you learned. So it was a really good environment for that.
You mentioned the Urquidez brothers. Is like Benny the Jet, like that guy?
He was the youngest of them. His brothers were the powerhouses back then.
Okay.
Blinky, and his oldest brother was just a bruiser, but he broke his back in an auto accident, and that sort of took him out of the fighting circuit. But his brother Blinky was brutal, and Benny was more focused back then on boxing.
Okay.
He really wanted to be a professional boxer, but he was also just a great martial artist. So he was really fast, but he was small. He was a very small guy.
Yeah, I always remember growing up, I was always a big Benny the Jet fan and seeing him in like Black Belt magazine and stuff.
Yeah, your job fighting with him was just try and stay away. Just keep moving and moving and moving and moving and moving. It's like, because if he got close to you, he was going to tag you pretty good.
In that same time frame, you had an opportunity. You traveled to the Philippines and did some
Yes.
training there. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I funny story. Married Claire Master Claire Marsch in 1979,
Okay.
and I gotta be honest with you, I went to college. Only Filipinos I knew were Hawaiians, and so I wasn't very good at geography. So I figured that's where Filipinos came from. Well, we got on an airplane, flew about 40 hours, and landed in Manila, and it was a culture shock. Everything was so different. But one of her uncles was a Shotokan black belt, and so he heard that we trained, and he was all ready for us. He says, "All right, did you bring your uniforms?" "No, it's okay, I got them." So we were training with him, and it was really rigorous, good training. Their instructor was from Japan. He was a square-headed guy, just totally, brutal. But there was a poster in the dojo, and it was a time-lapse photography of this guy. And I was looking, I said, "What is that?" He goes, "Oh, that's our niece." I said, "Huh, did you know what that is?" I said, "No, I've never heard of it before." The next day we came into the dojo to train. There's a guy sitting in the chair under the poster. And I look up, and it's the guy in the poster. And his name is Ernesto Presas. He's one of the three Presas brothers. So he watched the training session. He said, "Would you like to learn our niece?" I said, "Yes, I would. I would like to very much." And it was like drinking from a fire hose. There was so much material and bloody fingers and that, because my hands weren't in the right position. So I trained I would go there every year and train with him for, I could get in maybe 8 or 9 sessions a year. Sometimes he made it out to the West Coast, not often. So I've been, since 1980, I've been training, and now I teach that as well. And it's a good adjunct to Tang Soo Do because they're just 2 totally different skill sets.
Absolutely, but I've had the opportunity to train with a couple of guys who teach it and train it, and it's got a lot of crossover. If you have the time and you have the kind of patience to really hone those skills, I feel like there's a lot of crossover to it.
The thing that I noticed the most is it really picks up your hand-to-eye contact, and you get feeling more comfortable fighting in closer to somebody because it just builds up your speed. And so I noticed that the kick fighters, when they study our knees, all of a sudden they're moving a little bit closer and using their hands a lot more. And the knife training is very useful.
Right. You mentioned Ernesto, though. I think the one I'm familiar with is Remy.
Remy's the oldest.
Okay.
Actually, no, that's not true. Roberto is the oldest. I think he's 91 now. Remy was about 3 years younger than him, and Ernesto was the youngest. And they are 3 very different practitioners. The U.S. Remy is really well known because he moved to New York. Ernesto is known more in the Philippines than in Europe. He kind of stayed out of the U.S. just as a courtesy to his brother.
Gotcha. Awesome. So, rewinding just a little bit before you talked about, getting married in 1979, just talk a little bit about how you and Claire happened to meet. It was on the soccer field, right?
That is correct. I went enrolled in Loyola University of Los Angeles, and in my sophomore year, they double crossed us and joined with a women's college, Marymount, and they let girls in. It's like, no. And, there's a lot of complexities when you add women in school because you have to bathe and, stuff like that. It's just horrible. So we had a men's soccer team, a very, very good men's soccer team. We were NCAA Division I team, and we were very successful. Well, Claire came out for the team, and I'm, grousing, rah, 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 rah. But she made the team. She had played a lot in Asia, and she was good with both feet. So the coach loved that because she could move flare out, and then she moved the ball really well and would set up a lot of plays. So that's kind of where we met. We'll say we weren't really best of friends for a long time, because I was more of a European style soccer player. Most of my teammates were Mexican, South American, Central American. They played more of a South American style, and I was more of a crasher, which the coach loved because he was from Scotland and he needed somebody to bump the lads, as he said. And so my first interchange with Claire was she fielded the ball and I kind of sort of bumped her. And when she got up, I thought she's going to be yelling, but she didn't say a word. She just had that sort of look on her face. And next time I came near her, she'd released the ball and juked me. I was like, okay, you're lucky with that one. So we, later in the year, I got her interested in joining the karate class there. And that we did that forever since then.
So that was the class with June Reed black belt?
Yes, his name was Tyrone Huntley. It was the instructor. Yeah, he was. It was fun. It was very, very, very rigorous. He was, for a big man, or big kid then, he was really had a lot of stamina. I was surprised for such a big guy. Usually big guys kind of tire out quick.
So when did you finally transfer to actually teaching at the college?
I was his substitute when he couldn't make class. So he probably taught 80% of the time and I taught 20% of the time.
Gotcha. So when did you eventually make the switch over to training in Tang Soo Do?
it was 1970, 1980, 1979, something there. Claire and I, we had moved to San Diego after we got married, and we were driving to work, and they had a little sign up that said karate. So we stopped in, said, "Hey, all right, what? You know, it's right on the road." It was a brand new school. Had just opened. It had no students, but it had an affiliate school down in South Bay, San Diego. The chief instructor was a Korean by the name of Young Hook Kwan. He was quite a martial artist, and he had a brand new, fresh-faced black belt that had just come out from New Jersey. At the time, his name was Jeff O'Gravitz. It's now morphed into Jeff St. James. He was perfect. He was younger than me, but he was excited and he was pumped to train. So it was that's where we first started retooling. It wasn't, Tang Soo Do was not significantly different from old traditional Taekwondo, because most of the old Taekwondo instructors were Tang Soo Do or Chong Du Kwan instructors, because it wasn't a Taekwondo. So the material was almost the same. Forms were different, you know, but they were similar enough to where it didn't take long to get adjusted to Tang Soo Do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never had the chance to meet either of the Kwan brothers, but Master Godwin got to train with them quite a bit, and I've heard everyone I've ever talked to has spoken very highly of their abilities.
Yeah, I've only met his brother when he came out for like testing or something. But Young Hook Kwan was quite an athlete, quite a martial artist. He had a lot of, he was very precise in everything that he did, and he demanded that of his students. He was really kind of the first Korean I ever met. So I just figured that's what Koreans were like, you know. It was like they're kind of short-tempered and don't talk much. And when you do talk, you talk low. And when somebody can't understand what you're saying, you just beat them. Real simple.
We in our dojang, we still teach a form, staff form from one of the, I'm not sure which one created it. And I think one that Master Godwin got from Master Durkol. We still teach them as a, you know, extracurricular after the first 3 staff forms.
Yeah, there's like 8 of them. Yeah, Master Kwan, that was sort of his signature weapon. He was really good with a staff, very fast and precise and that. So he incorporated that into the curriculum. So everybody on the West Coast pretty much knows all the staff forms because it's part of their curriculum. So
nice. So you started training with the artist from now known as Master St. James.
Yes.
What'd you say his name was?
When I met him, it was Jeff O'Gravitz.
Gotcha.
And then I noticed he changed it, and then he changed it again. It was Jeffrey St. James,
right? And
then it was J. John St. James. I think that's what it is now.
I never got it. I know the name. I never got a chance to meet him.
He's really now he's a guy. He's a man guy. Very inspiring guy. He was like the Johnny Appleseed of karate schools. Everywhere he went, he opened up a karate school, and then another, and then another, and then another. He was unstoppable for that. And he was good at building people into instruction, teaching positions. His focus was to teach you how to teach. So it was pretty good.
Nice.
I think he's in Atlanta now.
Right. So in that timeline, when did you first meet Master Durkol, or then Mr. Durkol?
Right at that time.
Okay.
The Master Kwan's affiliate school was down in South Bay, and Master Durkol was his chief instructor.
Okay.
And so we were the new school, and they were the old established school. I think they started in either 77 or 78, something like that. And he had a cast of bruisers down there. I mean, they loved to fight, and Master Kwan help them in that endeavor. Master Cole was a very quiet person. I mean, we literally, we thought he was a mute because we never heard him talk. And then about 6 months later, it's like, he talks. He said something. I heard him say something. I mean, he's very, very shy. You wouldn't know that through the years when he's running his demos and doing all this stuff, but you could tell he was painfully shy to talk in front of people. He was an outstanding martial artist. He was a reflection of Master Kwan, because Master Kwan demanded perfection, and you could see it in Master Dirkle.
It's funny, in talking to so many people in this year, it turns out a lot of us martial artists are kind of shy and don't really like to talk about ourselves.
Yeah, I had to ask a bunch of people when, where, when, how, what do we do? What was that guy's name?
So prior to joining the World Tang Soo Do Association, did you have a chance to meet Grandmaster Shin, or was it when did you first meet him?
So prior to World Tang Soo Do, it was a funny story. Testing back then was interesting, especially with Master Kwan. You were not allowed to do anything but sit up straight with your eyes forward. Any infraction was a punishable offense when you're on the floor, and then any mistake was unforgivable. So he was quite a harsh taskmaster, and I assume his brother was too, even though the only time I ever saw him was at a test. But there was a couple other Korean masters in the area that were of the same kind of ilk. So we were having a GUP test, this before World Tang Soo Do, and this Korean came in, and all of them were bowing to him. They were deferring to him. I thought, oh no, who's this guy? Somebody's gonna die today. So he came up and he had the aviator glasses. He took them off, put them in his pocket, and this kid in the front row, and is one of these kids that's always got a big smile on his face. And this person goes, "Are you happy?" And he goes, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "That's good. I'm happy too." I thought, no, it's a trick question. I thought, this is a very different person, very, very different person. He just was, had a stern look on his face, but had a kind voice. At the very end of the test, during the breaking, one of the kids didn't break, and he was crying his eyes out. This was the most disappointing thing in his life. So this was Grandmaster Shin. He sat everybody down, and he told that kid to come up. And I thought, oh no, this is it. This is it. It's going to be an execution. He puts his arm around the kid and he said, "I'm very jealous of you." And everyone's like, what? He goes, "You care so much about your martial arts and your performance that it brings you to tears." He goes, "I was like that once too, and I really wish I still was, that I cared that much." And I thought, this is a very different man. It's a very, very different individual. And I didn't see him again for another couple of years. So that was before, I think he was putting together the pieces of World Tang Soo Do. So that was my first meeting with him, and I was very impressed.
That's a pretty cool story. And it echoes what most people I talk to say, where they had some interactions with Koreans that were more stern or kind of cold, is a word that I've heard used. And from the get-go, you meet him and he's just, you can tell right away that he's different. And it's no wonder why he's been able to build the association that he has, that has outlived him, and I think we'll continue to move on far past us.
Yeah, I agree. He knew how to bring the best out of everybody, and he had patience for people that he knew were just going sideways, but he had the patience to sort of guide them down the path. He also had a remarkable memory for names and faces. I mean, he didn't really know me that well. He knew my children's names, knew where they were in school, not the school, but what level they were at. It's like, how do you remember my kids? And you must deal with thousands of people across the world, and how you can remember things like that is remarkable. You rarely meet somebody like that.
Did that play into the decision to eventually join the association? Like just that feeling that you got from him?
A good piece of it. I was teaching at UCSD, and Master Kwan had left the area. He had gone back to that place you guys lived, east part of the U.S. And so I would test, because I was at the university, I was teaching there, but I would have the students, I said, if you would like to advance in this art, you can test at these other schools, Master Dercole's school in Chula Vista. I'll take you down to there, and you can test there, and he'll award you whatever the rank is and all that stuff, if that's what you want to do. Because we're at the university, you had restrictions about taking money or anything from students. They didn't want to have be an outlet for money making. And I didn't get paid anything, so it didn't matter to me that much. So Master Nicole had called all the black belts in the area and said, I would like you to meet Grandmaster Shin. You probably remember him, and he'd like to talk with you. So he came and met with all of us, and said, okay, so, we're forming an organization. And of course he looked, he goes, I see your faces. I said, because we had been part of probably 6 organizations that seemed to change every year. Just different, just new patch, new flag, same stuff, new patch, new flag. So it's like, not another one. He said, this is going to be different. He said, this organization is going to be a non-profit organization. So you teach a curriculum in your school. The organization will have 2 employees, a secretary and myself, and we will charge a fee for a GUP test and like $100 for a black belt test, and an annual school fee of like $100 or something, and that's it. He goes, we're going to be nonprofit. Every dollar that comes in goes out to expand the organization. So he said, okay, I can buy that. That's a good strategy. He said, it's been my experience that when you get to a certain size, there's so much money that everybody starts fighting because of the money. He said, so I'm taking the money component out. And I thought, well, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. So he said, sure, we can do that. So I would say about 75% of the black belts in the area went with it, joined it, and the rest just remained independent.
Gotcha. When I was looking through your Facebook pictures, looking for something to put on to let people know that we were talking, I don't know when you put quite a few pictures of some of your travels down to Mexico. And they look like there's some great fun that happened on those trips. You don't have to talk about that part, but
well, it's very interesting because before World Tang Soo Do, Master Dercole's school is in Chula Vista, and it's pretty close to the Mexican border. So some people would come up from Mexico to train at his school, and a lot of these guys were old Chuck Norris system people, white top, black pants, and he would go down there and he would work out with them and train them and teach them. And so he had sort of built this network of instructors in Mexico, and one leads to another. And then when World Tang Soo Do was formed, Grandmaster Shin told him, I need you to keep doing that, to build that for me. And that was Master Dercole's focus. And so he would say, hey, we got to go down and do a test. Can you go do that? Can you come down with us? Absolutely. Myself, Master Claire, Master Purnell, a couple other people. So we would do that. Well, he kept reaching farther into Mexico. And so he had said, I need you guys to come down. We're going to bring some people. We're going to go down to central Mexico, and we're going to go to a bunch of schools and kind of do that thing. It was a death march. I mean, unbelievable. You would land on the airplane, you'd get in a car, you drive 12 hours north, and you do a test, a clinic and a demonstration, get in the car, drive another 8 hours that way, do the same thing. And this would be about a 6-day program. So it was really exhausting. And Shin was there with us. So we spent a lot of time in the car because you had to spend so much time driving because the places you would go were so far away. But it was an incredible experience because the master instructors now from Mexico then were kids. I mean, they were sharp martial artists. But it was nice to see how they grew into leadership positions and became very successful. I had one of Master Ramirez. I got the honor of judging their black belt competition at their championship. And I can't remember the year. He won the grand champion. And these kids had him on their shoulders going around the town and every place. And I thought, what an incredible memory for him. And now he's, a master instructor, and, probably, I hope he still remembers all those good times. Yeah, when we would finally get to our last day, it was recreation time. And Korean traditions are very solid. If the grandmaster drinks, you drink. And so, with the exception of Master Purnell, who does not drink, except for one time when Grandmaster made him drink a drink, and I think he drank a gallon of Pepsi to try and get the taste out of his mouth. So yeah, there's some incriminating photos floating around out there of some pretty pie-eyed black belts wearing.
That's great. The Soto family is watching at Miguel, Santi, and then Francisco says, do you remember the train trip to Mazatlan, Mexico?
Yes, they had some travel issue. And so Mr. Soto said, hey, let's take the train. And I thought, great. So we drove down to Mexicali, we got on the train, and it was a deep dive into Mexican culture, because it would stop every so often in these little tiny towns. And you'd get out and you walk around the town, and it was really interesting. It was like seeing, because when you fly into an airport, then you go to a hotel, you see a lot of stuff, but it's a whole different thing when you're going through the interior and seeing real life in some of these small towns. I mean, really, really rural towns, and the kids and the people. It was a trip I'll never forget. I mean, it was really fantastic.
It's amazing. On top of those trips to Mexico, you've had the opportunity to travel for, I'm sure, lots of things, but some of the various clinics, the master's clinics throughout the years, including the first master's clinic in Alabama, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was, I checked with Grandmaster Strong, and it was 94. I was the first year at the university. And I was relating to somebody that the master's clinic was a little different back then, that Master Chambliss, who I'd never met before, was the drill instructor. And it was a military boot camp format. You landed in Huntsville Airport, and you got on the bus, and you came to the motel, and there's this man screaming in your face the minute you get there. You got 5 minutes to get changed, get your stuff, get your gear, be back on the bus. If you're here in 6 minutes, go home. And it's like, all right. He took us up to the old gym up on the top there and just ground us into pieces for I don't know how many hours, 4 or 5 hours, and screaming and yelling. And, you couldn't get any more fun than that if you tried. I mean, it was great. When you teach a lot, it's nice to have somebody who's senior to you yelling at you again and reminding you of how much fun it was being a student, and just picking every little thing out. The whole camp was kind of formatted that way. A little different is we didn't really start until 8. We had to be down at 8. And it was great because Master Purnell and I could get out about 6 o'clock and run a few miles before we had to be back to get on the bus, which Master Chambliss was kind of like, "You're running?" "Yes, sir, kind of got to get warmed up." "Oh, okay." "You're not tired?" No, sir." "Okay, must be California water or something." So a lot of traditions came out of that camp. One of the members of our group said, "Hey, let's sing the anthem before meals," and that brought that tradition in. The other difference was these were really D&D hotels, motels. I mean, but they had a bar in there. So after, there wasn't really a night program. You had a meeting after dinner. You had sort of 1 hour meeting, and then it was free time. So everybody would migrate into the bar, and Master Wick had come up with the Bud's Eye, where he was doing the form with a beer can. There was another version called Sip Suds, which was Sip Sue with a beer can that you have to do the move and make the drink. So it was a little rowdy. But I think I did some numbers that back then, I think I wrote it down that the total camp size was 53 was the total count of total students. And our candidate group was 16 in our group, so a lot smaller. In that total group of 53, there's only 13 left in that group, and 4 of them were in our candidate group. So we had pretty good longevity in terms of our group. So it was a chance to really get to know a lot of just fantastic people I never would have come across. I mean, I would never have come across somebody from Great Britain or Alaska or, the East Coast. And so these were all masters with different experiences, life experiences and backgrounds. And it was just like being a kid in a candy shop. You think, hey, I'm a third-degree black belt. I know everything. And then you get there, you go, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's what that's for. Huh? Interesting.
Now, when you went for the first time, was it just you? Did Claire join you later on?
Yes. No, she was in our group.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yep,
I can't imagine. My wife was a couple years ahead of me, and I still remember she wouldn't share a hotel room with me. She's like, "I'm not getting up when the candidates get up."
That's dedication. No, I have to get up and get her coffee. Actually, Mrs. Marsch outranks me. So.
Oh, okay.
So the yes, she like I think you Rex, our year 90, the world tournament before that was when she won the grand champion. So that was pretty hip. So yeah, in our group, Master Purnell was in that group, but he had been to the camp in Florida the year before. So he was in the senior group, and myself and Claire were in the junior group. Master Patrick West was in our group. There's a fourth one. I think Amerigo from Chile. I think he's still active, and he was in our group as well. Most of the other ones have either passed away or moved on to do something else.
Gotcha. You mentioned the World Championships. When did you get the opportunity to first go to the Worlds?
First one in Philly. We were in doing one of these Mexico trips, and the following month was the World Championship. It's a little inside baseball, but there was there was some Korean instructors, And during that trip, there was a little bit of conversation. We were not party to it. It was Grandmaster Shin and this group who was traveling with him. They were in some pretty heated discussions about things, and they all en masse resigned. And so Quan Jin was like, "We have the world championship coming up," and he said, "Do we cancel?" I said, "No, we're good. We've got it." So we ended up when we got there, we had to go down and set up the arena and put out everything and do it. And I believe that the idea was, geez, if we leave, the whole thing's going to fall apart. Well, it didn't. So the first championship was awesome. There was some good fighters, good fighters. I mean, good forms technicians too, but there was some really, really good fighters. And it came down to Master Purnell, and then I can't remember his first name. His nickname was Amazing Maze from Master Khalid's school in Arizona. He is a good fighter. So it came down to the finals in the arena, like the boxing arena, down lights, 8 o'clock at night, the final match. And Kenny got him. Kenny is just shocked. Didn't shock us as much, but it shocked Master Khalid and all that. He's like, I can't believe he beat him. I can't believe he beat him. It was 5-point matches back then, so it always would go the distance. But that was like a magic night, and so everybody was, Master Purnell was a black belt then, but he was so humble, but everybody else is like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? So, that'd be San Diego.
He's with us.
Yeah. We pretty much, this region, which was Region 1 back then, pretty much won all of the world championships except one. Grandmaster Shin student snuck one in there. But for a while, we had a run of all of them, so it was pretty cool.
You said 90, was it 92 was when Master Marsch won?
I think it was 92.
92.
Yeah.
That had been pretty cool too.
It was good. They decided that year because the year before, Mercy St. James, Jeff's wife, had won, and she won the grand championship. So Quan Jin said, "Hey, we got to split them. We got to split male and female." So Claire's year was the year they split it. Michael Pereira, who was another awesome student, Master Nicole student, just a prototype, perfection. He won the male championship, and then Claire won the female championship. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. You talked about Master Purnell and just him being humble, and even now he's so energetic and just, you can just tell how much he loves this art. But when it's, I got the chance, he was one of the guys that worked with us as a candidate at Master's Clinic. But when it's time to go, like we did Kun for an hour, and we probably did it 15, 20 times. And it's like, all right, let's go, let's do it again. And he was doing it with us, and he's just so impressive, such an amazing martial artist in person.
Yeah, he's always been like that. He's always been humble, is even a strong enough word. He has a secret that I discovered years later. Took me years to figure it out. He would always beat you by 1 point. No matter what you were sparring, he'd always beat you by 1 point. And then all of a sudden I realized, watch him fight somebody else who was much better than me, and he beat him by 1 point. I thought, you dog, he could wipe most people out in 3 seconds if he wanted to, but he's the kind of person that would just win by just a little bit to keep you wanting to advance yourself a little bit more. I'm going to get him next time. I'm going to put in double the training. I'm going to get him. I lost by 1 point. So it's in everything he does is like that. He wants you to be more, not to show you how good he is, but to keep you wanting to be just a little bit better than you were 5 minutes ago. And that's why he's I would say 90% of the reason why I've stuck with it all these years, because I won't let them down. I couldn't come to him and say I'm quitting or I'm not going to do this anymore. I wouldn't disappoint him.
You mentioned training or teaching with him at Allied Gardens. How long have you been doing that?
We opened that school 2000 and wow. See, it's 2019, 87, 16, 50, 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, he moved from a previous location and then we went together in this location, a little smaller footprint.
Nice.
So I've been teaching, I teach, mostly I substitute teach when he can't make it or he's got something, but I've also was teaching R&E's class there as well.
Gotcha. You mentioned here real quick, Master Ramirez says hello. He says a great martial artist, friend, and an excellent person. The Marshes are a beautiful family. And then he said hello to me as well. Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well.
He's the man on the people's shoulders.
He's a great guy.
There are so many incredible instructors down there in Mexico that have been in it for years. There's a master, I knew I was going to forget his name. He teaches down in Caborca. We would go down there, Master Valdez.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Now picture his place where he trains as sort of an open air gymnasium out on the edge of the desert. Now picture his students riding up to class off the desert on horses, full cowboys, tie their horses up, change their clothes. And thought, now this is serious training. So it's things like that are just amazing.
Yeah, that's you won't find that over here on the East Coast, or I guess on the West Coast either. You got to go down a little bit.
That's one of the things we learned is you don't have to teach a Mexican how to be tough. They're born tough and they just get tougher. So it's like just teach them technique. They don't need to learn how to be tough.
When the association started, what was the region that you guys were in?
We were the number one, region one. It was the entire West Coast, Alaska, and Hawaii. And it was a lot of good people, a lot of good instructors. A lot of them are still hanging there. Master Stein and Master DeBaca and Master Auer. I know I'm going to forget a bunch of them. They're still there. There's Master Wick passed away, unfortunately. Right. It was just an awesome region. And it was usually whoever won the Region 1 championship went on to win the world tournament. It was kind of the if you could win the Region 1 championship, you were top of the line because there was so many good people in the region.
Gotcha. And so when did it split off into the?
That was a big question. We were trying to.
Oh, okay.
I think it was split. I want to say in 2008.
Okay.
And it is typical Kwanjanum Shin. He's at our Region 1 tournament. We have a meeting. He goes, oh, by the way, I split the region. California, Southern California is Region 1, Northern California is Region 20, and Alaska is Region whatever. And Claire Marsch, you're the director. And then he went on to talk about something else. I was like, okay, no discussion about that one. That's just the decision that was made. So he was, it was kind of funny. It's like, I guess we're changing. So that's when he made the split. And then we're trying to remember when he decided to put me in as Region 20 director. In that year, I tried to look at my old emails and I couldn't figure it out, but my memory said it was probably maybe 2014, something like that, 2013, same thing. He came down and said, you're the new regional director. Thank you, sir. And he says, is this okay? I said, yeah. I said, I'm just going to do what Claire tells me. It works out just fine. He goes, that's good.
Do you ever have the opportunity to do any joint trainings or tournaments with the Region 1 at all?
Last year, there was a legacy tournament that a lot of the senior instructors and black belts and masters went up a Region 1 legacy, tournament and camp. It was really, I couldn't make it because Claire went, and I had to pick up the slack for babysitting here. So,
Right.
but just seeing the old faces and that, so it was, I shouldn't say old faces. Well, yeah, there's kind of old faces. It was really cool. And they were talking, we Zoomed a lot and talked old memories and stuff that we had done together. Because we would do stuff, we would go up and go camping in the North Woods and training and stuff like that. It was pretty fun.
You mentioned babysitting, but we haven't got a chance to talk at all about your family. I saw recently you had a wedding in the family.
My son, Patrick William, got married in Nashville. And yeah, we're really super happy. We're hoping for some additional family members. my oldest kids, Nicole, trained. She lives up in Los Angeles. We see her quite a bit now that they shut everything down there, so she comes down here. She's unmarried, and I have a younger daughter, Elena. She's severely disabled, so she requires quite a bit of time and attention. So yeah, so you probably you saw her on my face. You see, she's the one paddling around in the pool, surrounded by colorful noodles and stuff like that. She loves the warm water.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
That's why you're in San Diego, right?
Yeah. Nicole actually got to be an EDON, but then when she left for college, she never got back into it. And Patrick kind of got enamored with running and playing baseball, but he's retained the running thing. He's a triathlete now, so he's maintained that discipline his whole life. So, but neither of them got back into the martial arts.
It's, as being an instructor for many years, you realize that some people have their seasons. Some of us stick around for ever and they can't get rid of us. And then
yeah, it's true. It's been part of our life for so many years. It's hard to imagine not being involved in it.
Yeah. I know I talked to Claire about this, but one of your former students way back when, Sandy Fenton, used to train with us in Pennsylvania when she was out this way.
Yes.
It was so awesome to get her back in and help her get to her black belt. And I know she's back out there in the region now. Yep.
She trained at UCSD in I think it was 85. She then had a husband. They were doing their doctoral thesis at UCSD. It was a different training program back then. Since I didn't do it for a living and it was all voluntary, I basically had a contract with the students that said, I will train you like I train, and you can either stay or you can go. And if you're going to test, I'll test you once a year if you want. If you don't want, that's fine. I don't care. So these were college kids, 20s, and they were just crazy. When the university then had just started bringing in an undergraduate program, but they didn't really have anything else for them to do. UCSD was basically a research and a graduate college. So they were forced to bring undergraduates in because the UC system says you have to. So they didn't have anything for them to do. So when we started a martial arts class, that first class was 75 kids. Wow. It's like, that's crazy. So we decided, well, the only way to pare this down is just to run it red hot, full bore, 100 miles an hour, and it'll go down. It went down to about 50. So I said, we got to heat it up more. So we just had an insane training regimen. And she was one of those students. She laughed because she goes, I can't believe I did that stuff. We had these bleachers that were made of concrete, and I make them, push up under knuckles and hop from stair to stair. Bam, 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 bam. Nobody quit. All right, I got to think of something else. All right, we're right on the beach. So I'd have them go climb up the cliffs, run up the side of the cliffs. Didn't quit. Said what I created was a bunch of just maniacs, training maniacs. So, and she was part of that group. And I remember the year she came back to San Diego, sitting in the hallway waiting for class. And I looked and I thought, boy, that face looks familiar. And she's, "Hi, Mr. Marsh." I said, "Sandy Fenton, I can't believe it." It was like, she goes, "Sir, I don't think I can do like I did before." I said, "Miss Fenton," I said, "nobody can. What are you, crazy?" That was 20 years ago. I said, "No, these students, we run it, nothing like that. They wouldn't even believe if I asked them to do it, the stuff I made you guys do." So it was awesome to see her come back. And she also focuses on Qigong now. She's our regional sort of representative for that.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, we're at an hour mark. So I want to start to wrap it up. Is there anything we talked about a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff we didn't get a chance to talk about. We'll probably go for another hour, but is there anything you want to talk about before we wrap up that we didn't get a chance to speak on?
I talked to other people that are in other martial arts endeavors, and they said, "So they've noticed that I'd been with World Tang Soo Do for a long time." And I told them that, yeah, I said, one of the benefits, one year I got invited to by Master Klaus Trogman to go to Munich and go to their master's camp and tournament and that. And I never would have met those people there. I mean, I never would have a chance to, not just to see Munich, but to see all those really incredible masters. And then one year I got invited by Master Khan to go to Greece and train in that. They were at the Olympic training facility. And it was, at that time, Greece was going through a little bit of an economic downturn. So the camp was a combination of hard training and we'll say disciplined meals. You got a sort of ham sandwich, you have kale, fruit, water. That was the meals. I mean, skinnied up after that week, I got to tell you. But it was great. I would never have seen these black belts from that part of Europe. So when I always say that World Tang Soo Do has opened my eyes and given me the honor of training with some of the finest martial artists in the world. And it's, I was glad. I have no regrets whatsoever. It was a really awesome thing.
Excellent. Well, and I appreciate you sharing some of those stories with us today. It was a pleasure to talk, and
it was a good trip down memory lane.
Yeah, well, again, it speaks to the association and being able to connect with people, and now with technology and being more inside the house in 2020. I've got to meet with people that I never would have gotten the chance to sit down and spend an hour with. So,
it's true how you make good out of everything. That's the other thing about World Tang Soo Do is the legacy leadership just continues. I mean, the vision is still there, and this has been a test, I think, of the association to see how they can adjust. And from the leadership from Grandmaster Strong down the chain, I think they've done a magnificent job of reassembling the jigsaw puzzle and making it work.
Absolutely. Well, Master Marsch, I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for
joining.
It's
been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Tang Soo.
Thanks, Sue.